Hello, in this video I'm showing you how to install a Adey MagnaClean Professional 2. So I'm going to go over what you would expect to find when you come to fit this filter. I'm going to go through all the little tips and tricks which I've learned over the years to make the job run smoothly and make it a lot easier for when you come to service it in the future. After I finish the MagnaClean, I'll then show you how I go about adding inhibitor or cleaners into the system by using the MagnaClean. Now this customer called me and asked me if I could fit a MagnaClean and also look over the system, because the engineers who fitted this, they have not filled out any of the paperwork, so they've not filled out the logbook, so the boiler would have lost its guarantee. They've not registered it with Gas Safe, so that's not been done. So they've asked me to look over it and also fit the MagnaClean. Now the pipework also hasn't been done properly, so not all the water is being filtered continuously, so I'm going to change the pipework so that all the water in the system will be continuously filtered by the new MagnaClean. Right, now let's quickly whiz through my intro and get on with showing you how to fit the new filter. My name is Mark Ballard and I've been a gas registered engineer for over 20 years. The aim of my channel is to help you with your central heating and your plumbing. If you find this video helpful in any way, then please give me some feedback by clicking on that thumbs up, and that will also help others to find the video. If you think this video is useful, then click on that subscribe, and if you want to receive a notification the next time I upload a help video, then click on that bell. And of course, share the video with your friends. And I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who's left a donation in my toolbox fund. It's really appreciated and it helped me to make more videos which will hopefully help you. Right, now let's get on with the video. All the links throughout this video can be found in the description below, at the end of the video, or in the cards above. Now this is the installation and it's a brand new installation. It's not done by myself. I'll repeat again, I did not install this new system. You can see the pipework's all pretty good. It's nicely clipped to the wall. Everything looks very neat. There are a few things I would do differently if I had done the installation. You can see all the pipes there go up into the loft, and that's where the unvented hot water cylinder is. You can see on the bottom there is a system filter. Now for some reason they fitted an old filter and not a new one, and those filters I don't particularly like, and I've taken them out of several properties where they've been completely blocked. And there's actually no way of easily dismantling them and taking them apart so you can completely clean them out. Now one of the things here I'm going to change is the return pipe work, because if you have the flow pipe going up into the loft, then you have the return coming back from the loft, and that return pipe does not go through the filter. So that would mean all through the summer months when the central heating is running and heating up the hot water, none of the water will be filtered. Now I'm going to change that so that all the water in the system will be filtered continuously, whether it's in the hot water or central heating. On the left hand side of the boiler we have these two pipes, and that is the cold water pipe and also the hot water pipe for the baths and the showers. Now the first thing I'm going to need to do is to drop the pressure on the system and then drain the system down so I can cut into the pipework. Now I'm going to drop the pressure by using the filter. Now what I can tell you is the water that comes out of here is pretty disgustingly black. For a brand new system, that is not very good. It kind of indicates to me that this system has not been flushed out. Now you can see I'll drop the pressure down to 0 so I can continue now draining out the rest of the water. Now just to show you quickly what you get in the box, obviously there's instructions and your guarantee. Then you have the MagnaClean itself. This is the unit. It's pretty heavy, so be careful with that. Then we have the lock-in trigger, and that's used to release the MagnaClean from the valves. And then we got the valve assembly here, which is all strapped together quite nicely. And of course it comes with all the tools to take the MagnaClean apart and clean it all out. So I'm going to quickly show you how this MagnaClean works. Now I'm going to take off the lid, and that has the magnet on it. Now I'm just going to dip it in this bowl here and swill it around. It's going to start picking up all that magnetite. And it's pretty amazing how fast it works and how fast it will collect it. If I leave it in there, it will completely clean this bowl out, leaving just clear water. Now you can see in just a few seconds, it hasn't taken very long before it's picked up lots of that magnetite which is floating about in the bowl. And obviously this is a really good tool, and it's definitely well worth fitting one on your system. And now all that is washing around the system, blocking up all different parts of your system and your boiler, which obviously is incredibly bad. So now I have completed changing the pipework, and if you want to see how I did that, then I've left that part of the video to the end, so you can watch how I install the MagnaClean, and then you can watch the pipework changing if you wish to. Now this is the valve set, and I'm going to put it on this straight bit of pipework here, and I want to make sure I get it as close to that elbow as possible. Now there is a sticker on this template, and it's not just a piece of rubbish, it is your template to mark out the piece of pipework to cut out. If you see, if I put it on the valves there, that's the length of the valves. Now what you do is you stick that on your pipe and you mark the top and the bottom of the sticker, and that is the length of the piece of pipe you should cut out. Now when you come to put your valves on, they do have the correct way. There's the one side that slides down and the other side slides up, so make sure you put them the right way round for when you come to fit it onto your pipework. You can see I've left that gap there, and the valve set's going to just drop down to that elbow. Now you can remove the valve alignment tool so that you can then take the valves apart and you can put together them in that way. But I'm going to keep mine all together and assemble it like that. Now before you go cutting the pipework, you want to make sure that when your MagnaClean is in place, you can get to it and service it all properly. I'm just making sure that the lid here is not going to hit that pipe. It is a little close to there. You can also put it on the valves and just make sure again that it's going to fit properly, and you can get to everything, you can get to the valves properly. There's nothing worse than finishing the job and then finding you've made it really hard for yourself to get to the valves or take the lid off. So now I've used a pencil, I've marked that bottom line, and I'm just going to cut it with my pipe slice. I'm just going to slip that on there. If you don't have a pipe slice, it's really worth getting one. They're the best way to cut a pipe. There we go. Now I'm just going to move that to the side and just going to tighten that nut up so it holds the pipe out the way. Then I'm just going to clean this pipe up, make sure there's no flux or any solder left on it, so it's got a good clean finish so that when the olive goes on there, it's going to seal up and not leak. Now once again, with the MagnaClean in place, I'm going to check that I can get the lid onto the MagnaClean. Make sure it's not going to foul on that pipe there. Like I said, it would have been nice to get that a little bit further away. I should have maybe made sure that was a little bit lower, but it's not a problem, and I'm still going to service it okay. Now I'm just going to clip up those clips there, the ones I undid earlier. That's going to hold all the pipework back in place. Now I'm going to cut the second bit of pipework. I'm just going to move the pipe back in position, then put the sticker back on the pipe, and then I can mark that top line and then cut it in that position there. You can see that's where it goes, and that's where I'm going to cut it. So now to remove the pipe, put my pipe slice on there and turn it, because it's much easier just to remove the pipe in this occasion. There we are. Now I can just refit the pipe, and now it should be in the correct location. And you can see there's the piece I've cut out, and you can see that's exactly the same height. That's 150 millimeters. Now I'm just going to test that again, so you can push that up into there and slide it across and then drop it down. Now just bear in mind that you will need to move that top pipe to slide it up, or the bottom pipe, whichever way around you do it. But you can also do it this way, where you take the valves apart and then you can put it in the position like that and then slide it up and drop it down that way. So that's another way you could do it if you can't move the pipes to the side. Now on this bottom fitting, it's going to be very hard to put PTFE tape on, so I'm just going to use joining compound. This is the method which I use nearly all the time. I'm just going to wipe the sealing compound around the edge of the seating where the olive goes. You can see I've not put too much on, just enough to go all the way around the edge of the seating. Now I'm just going to remove the nut and olive and wipe a bit of joining compound all the way around the pipe. I don't always do this, but it just doubles up and makes sure there are no leaks. I can then put the nut on, and I can put the olive on, and then I can just drop the MagnaClean valve set on top like that. I know that'll be a good seal because I've done thousands of joints like this, which never leak. Now I'm just going to do that nut up, and then that joint is ready to be tightened up. Now to do the top joint, I'm just going to remove this pipe because it's easy to do, and we're going to use PTFE tape on this. Now when you come to put the PTFE tape on, you're just wrapping it around the olive. I see people sometimes wrapping it around the threads, and that is not the thing to do on this type of joint. Whenever you have an olive, you wrap the PTFE tape around the olive, and you want to make sure you get it around the front of the olive, because that's the bit that's going to do all the sealing. You can see I'm wrapping it around nice and tight. I am wrapping it around both sides of the olive, and I've wrapped it around 6 times on this occasion. Just smooth it off, and now I can fit the pipe into the MagnaClean like that. And then I can just do up this top nut to lock it in location. I can now do it with the MagnaClean nut. Now doing up the two nuts on the valves is a little trickier than it looks. Now you can see I've just removed the alignment tool because it just means I can get to that top nut a little bit easier to hold the valve, and then I can do up the nut on the bottom, which will then squash the olive or crush the olive into the position where it would then stay. Now I always fit these Pro 2 MagnaCleans on an angle so that you can get to the valves. There's nothing worse than having them on the side and then finding them really difficult to get to service. Because maybe there's a pipe right next to them, and then if they have a leak you will need to service them, and if they're right around the side it's not easy to get to them and undo the screw in the middle, and it can just make your life a bit trickier. So I always tend to put them on an angle like that so I can get to them nice and easily. Now when I came to do the top nut on the valve, I found that it was a lot trickier to do because the valve and the pipe attaching to the boiler moves around. You can see as I'm doing up the nut, that whole pipe and valve there moves about. And I didn't want to put too much strain on that pipe and valve going into the boiler in case it damaged it and caused it to leak. So always be careful when you're doing these valves up. Make sure you look up and down the pipework to see what's above it and below it, because you don't want to be doing up that and then find you've caused a leak below or above, and then you have to go taking those joints apart. So always take your time and don't rush it. So you can see I'm having to undo and then redo this joint to try and get it in the correct position. You can see how that whole valve and pipe just wiggles around there, just making it a bit awkward to get this valve in the correct position. Now what I've decided to do is to do up this top nut and get the valve in roughly the right position like that, and then I'm going to adjust the bottom valve. So you can see when I put the guide back on, it doesn't line up, it's on a slight angle. So this is not the way I'm going to leave it. I'll then get my spanners in just a sec. I'm going to go loosen that bottom nut on the valve, and then I'm going to realign that bottom valve because the pipe at the bottom is rigid and fixed, and it doesn't allow that bottom valve to move at all. And there we go, I've now undone the nut and that valve is now loose. Now I can also tell that the two valves are slightly too far apart. Now right now I'm just levering up the nut and I'm pushing the olive up by maybe 1 or 2 millimeters, and you can see the guide now just slips on and off perfectly the way it should do. So now what I've got to do is just redo up the nuts and make sure that everything is in alignment once again. Now like I said, take your time because these nuts are a little tricky to get them lined up and get them perfect. It definitely is not easy. So I'm just doing this again and I'm thinking, okay, is that in the right place? I'm still not quite happy with that. I can tell it's a little bit tighter than I want it to be. I'm just making sure everything is in the correct position again. So now I'm taking the guide off and I'm just trying to work out what exactly is not quite lining up. And I can tell that the valves are still a little bit too far apart. So I'm just going to loosen the nut again and I'm going to just lever that, and you will see that the valve will rise up. There we are, it just rose up a little bit. So the lesson here is make sure that the two valves are tight up against the plastic spacer in between the two valves. Now hopefully I can put this alignment tool on one last time. I'm going to do up this bottom nut here on the valve, do that nice and tight because I'm not going to need to undo that again. There we go, line it up, good and tight. There, see, that is nice and loose the way I expect it to be. Now I'm just going to double check the nuts. I'm going to check that top nut is tight, like that. Just check it. Yep, that one's good and tight. Check the bottom one again, make sure that's good and tight. Yep, and that was nice and tight. And again, check one last time, and that's perfect the way it should be. Now I'm going to fit the trigger. It's positioned on the MagnaClean like this, and all we do is just fit it onto the valves like that with the red knob sticking out. Now I always put a bit of silicone grease on there because these are rubber seals and it just helps them to seal, and it also makes it easier to take it on and off in the future. Now I just take the MagnaClean pot and just put it against the valves and slide it into position. Push it all the way back, then give it a good tug and make sure that it's not going to come off. Then turn the red locking screw in anti-clockwise direction. That pushes it up against the pot and locks it all on. So just make sure that it is good and tight. Give it a good pull again. Make sure it is secure. Now if you want to remove the MagnaClean pot for servicing and maintenance, all we do is undo that red screw like that. We then pull and squeeze the trigger and give the pot a wiggle as we're squeezing it. That should then release the locking rings, allowing you to pull the MagnaClean off like that. Now, as you know, if you watch any of my other videos, I like using lots of silicone grease. And again, I'm going to take the seal off the lid here and get some silicone grease again, and then make sure that I've got a good coating all the way around the rubber O-ring on the lid, so I get a good seal and I'm not going to get any leaks. This also helps for maintenance in the future. It helps it to release. You can see I'm also putting some silicone grease onto the pot, so that also has a good covering. And there we are. Just put the seal back inside the lid, put the sheath back on like that, and then drop the lid into the pot and just do it up like that. There we go. And we just get the tool, and then we could just put it on the lid and then just nip this up hand tight. Okay, you don't want to go crazy with this. And now I can just open the valves on the side by using the other spanner. You just put it on the side here, twist the valve downwards like that, so it goes from red to green. You can see the green there. And the same with the bottom one, like that. And there we go. Just a quick note, these valves only turn a quarter turn. So the long part of the handle are now facing each other. To close them, you just use the spanner and then turn the valve a quarter turn. So the long part of the handle is now facing the MagnaClean pot. So there we go, both valves are now open and it's all ready for the system to be refilled. That's the Adey MagnaClean Professional 2 fitted and all ready to go. Now before you fill your system, now is a good time to add some inhibitor or chemicals into your system. So I'm going to put some inhibitor into this. You can see I just take the lid off and I can literally just pour it into the pot like that. Don't fill it up too full, because when you put the lid on it will then overflow, so don't go any higher than that. Then wait for the level to drop as it goes into your system and pour the rest of the pot in. If it's not draining into the system, make sure that your valves are open. Alternatively, you may need to fill the system and then run the system, drain the MagnaClean and add it afterwards. And you may want to watch my other video on how to do that, and you'll find the link in the description below. Now all that's left to do is fill the system, which I've done to 1.5 bar, and then you can then bleed any air out of the MagnaClean by using the key like that. Put it in the top, turn it around, wait for a hiss. You might need to get a bowl just to catch any water. Make sure you don't spill it on your carpet or anything, and then close it down once the water's come out, and that's your MagnaClean bled. You can see now the system is now running. I've got 1.5 bar in the boiler. The temperature is now up to 59 degrees. And I'm just letting out any air which is remaining in the system. So now you can see this is the MagnaClean all up and running. And the return pipework from the hot water now is continuously filtered as it comes down, goes through the filter and then back into the boiler there. So that's it, job done. So now all the water is being filtered that's in the hot water and the central heating system, and the system is being protected with the MagnaClean, so it will be gathering up any black magnetite that's floating around the system, and it'll protect the boiler. I've put inhibitor in it, so that's also helped reduce any corrosion, and the boiler and system life should now be considerably longer with this filter fitted. As I say to all my customers, it's well worth fitting and they are not just a gimmick. Now I'm not going to go into cleaning and maintenance in this video, but you can see literally after just a few minutes of running, you can see there's a whole lot of black magnetite which has been collected on this filter, even though the system has been drained down and refilled. And bearing in mind this is a brand new system, this doesn't look very good at all. Really, this system could do with a really good power flush. But of course that's more money that this customer doesn't want to spend. So now I'm going to go over how I changed the pipework, so if you're interested to see how that was done, then keep watching. Now I'm going to install the MagnaClean somewhere around here, but I need to make sure there's enough room for the lid to come off, and also make sure you have enough room for the valves. So I'm now going to remove the flexible condensing pipe to get that out of the way so I don't end up burning it. I'm just going to tuck that electrical wire up out the way. I'm then going to loosen off the return pipe on the valve like that. And then going to get a small screwdriver and just release the clips there, so I can now pull the pipework away from the wall so I can get my pipe slice in and cut the pipes. And there we are, that's the pipe pulled away. Just do that last clip and there we go. Now I'm going to get my pipe slice and start cutting through the return pipe which comes down from the cylinder in the loft. I'm also going to cut through the return pipe just here and remove that bit of pipe. I can now remove the pipe off the filter. Then I'm going to use my water vacuum to suck up any water as I remove the old filter. There's a lot of movement on this central heating return pipe, so obviously underneath the floor this pipe is connected onto plastic pipework. I'm just going to slice off the top of the pipe there, so I've got a clean finish, and I'm going to put that bit of pipe back in that position there. Now I'm just going to clean this bit of return pipework up and then check round the back with a mirror. And then I clean this piece here up. Now if you do find any scratches or lines or grooves in the pipe, use a file them out so the pipe is completely clean. Like that. I'm now going to solder this bottom fitting here with a straight coupling. Like that. Once it's cooled, I can then clean it off and remove any flux which might have run down a pipe. I'm now going to remove the boiler connection from the old bit of pipe and then give that a good old clean off, ready to be soldered onto a new piece of pipe. I'll now clean up the return pipe from the loft, like that. I'm going to give a check with the mirror, make sure it's clean, then I'll flux up the pipe and the fitting, and then put them into position. Now I'm just going to use my mold grips and just lightly clamp the pipe next to the clip to stop the pipe from falling down and not being in the correct position. Now I'm going to solder the boiler fitting onto a new piece of pipe. I'm going to heat up the fitting and then I'm going to put some solder on it, which will then be drawn into the joint through capillary action. And then when I've finished doing that, I'll see there's a little run underneath the pipe there, so I know there's enough solder that's gone into the joint. Just give that little blow to cool it down and then wipe it off to get rid of any flux that might be left on the pipe. And that's just going to go up here like that. Now whenever you're soldering, the pipe needs to be completely clean, and I use a bent brush to make sure the flux goes right round the back of the pipe. I can now fit the elbow. I'm going to make sure everything's still all lined up. Now I'm going to leave the nut loose on the boiler because I want the air to escape when I'm doing the soldering. If I don't do this, when I do the soldering, the air will expand inside the pipe and then blow the solder out of the joint and make it leak. I've now put my heat mat in position, and now I'm going to wrap a damp wet cloth around the pipe to try and stop the pipe from getting too hot and melting that plastic fitting. Now I'm going to heat up that joint there, and I'm trying not to make the pipe too hot because, like I say, I don't want to melt that plastic clip there. And just done that elbow there. Now the heat would have travelled along the pipe, and hopefully I can now do the T just here. If you're new to soldering, you'll see I haven't got the torch continuously playing on the joint. I'm just touching it every now and again, and even now it's just on the outside of the pipe, letting the heat just gradually seep in. Like I said, I don't want to get it too hot. And now I'm just going to pour a bit of water onto that cloth to make sure that the pipe stays cold and it doesn't melt that plastic clip. I can then clean off all the pipe work, and then I'm going to do the final bit of soldering, which is this return pipe just at the top here. And again, trying not to get it too hot, letting that solder run into the joint, and then I know it's good because I can see it runs out to the bottom of the joint. There we go. And once again, let it cool, and then I'll clean it off with my cloth to remove any flux which may have run down the pipe. And there we go, all the pipework has now been corrected, and all the return pipework will be running through the filter. So there we go then. So if you do want to know about maintenance, then obviously you can watch my other video by clicking a link at the end of the video or in the description below. Right, that's about it then. So I do hope my video has been helpful to you. If you want to watch my next video, then you can click on the link just here. And if you found my video helpful in any way, then please give me that little bit of feedback by clicking on that thumbs up. And like I said, that will help others to find the video. And if you enjoyed the video, then you can click on subscribe. And if you want to receive a notification the next time I upload a help video, then click on that bell. And of course, share the video with your friends. And if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I'd like to say a really big thank you to everybody who's left a donation in my Toolbox Fund. It's really appreciated, and it helped me to make more videos, which will hopefully help you. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time.